Hey everyone, Fujosevich here. Welcome back to my very first Gauntlet run in Eternal after the closed beta wipe. We're now in open beta. And this is looking like a very weak hand if I were to not top deck very well. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm kind of tempted to... I'm actually gonna keep it. I am going to keep it, actually. There's a few reasons why. So one of the things in Eternal, as in Magic the Gathering, you can get very mana starved. And that's one of the things I really... Obviously, no one likes that, because then you get stuck not being able to play any of the cards in your hand. So... Ooh, wow, there's a lot going on here from my opponent. So, that's why I kind of kept this hand, and now it's looking like a little bit of a less good idea. But I think we'll survive here. Because we have because we played Tinker Apprentice, which then was able to buff one of my units in hand. Oh, wow. How is this 0? Oh, that's a really interesting card. I've never seen that one before. And what do we want to do now? It doesn't really matter. I think I'm going to attack with the 4-3. Now we're going to get to see. I know in my first video we talked about some attacking and defending mechanics. Oh, that is so not good for me. Okay, well, this is one of the things that I was talking about. Oh, well, this is interesting. My opponent played this card, but then decided not to actually defend with it. So, this is what I was talking about in my first video, where on my opponent's turn, they were able to play this Scorpion Wasp, the exact same card that I had in my hand last time, because it has the card text Ambush, so which reads, can be played to block an enemy attack or at the end of their turn. But it also has the deadly text, which kills any unit it damages, which is sometimes then used to take out enemy minions. You know, just, it's a 1-1, but it can take out basically any minion in the game because of that deadly word text. And then he played this and decided not to use it. So I'm going to go ahead and use, what I used there was called a fast spell, which is allowed to be used in the middle of attacks. So I was able to use that after my opponent had decided which card was going to defend my attacker. I then buffed my card, my minion, so that it wouldn't die. Which is a very different mechanism from what we see in Hearthstone, for sure. So now, again, we've talked about the weapons before, and one of the basic strategies that at least I think I'm going to be trying to employ here is the fact that because the weapon relies so much on this, if my opponent deals 3 damage to me, this 3 armor to me, I'm going to lose my weapon. So I want to not attack with my minions so that they're here, able to defend in the event that my opponent wants to try and attack. So now I have a choice of which of these 2 big minions I want to play, either a 5 mana, 5 power, 6/5, or a 6 power, 4/6. And I'm going to go with the 6 power, 4/6. Not only is it flying minion, which we talked about in the last video as well, but it also has endurance, which means it's going to be able to attack and then defend on the same turn. So here what I'm going to do again is I'm going to take out this 1-2 with my weapon. While not really a really high priority target, I still feel like it's important to kind of be removing some of my opponent's minions, especially when we're kind of down to really small card hands. You don't want to give them too many opportunities to be buffing different minions. And in this situation, I really have no problem just slowly give yourself aura, and that's fine. They were able to buff up their minion to save it, and I'll attack with my 2 big minions. So in this case, my flying minion got through easily because there was no one to defend them. Because, like I said last time, you need a flying minion to defend a flying minion. And then my it's not Argent, it's Argent Port. Remember, it's not the Argent Crusade here in Eternal. Attacked a 0-2 minion, killing it, but now it's fatigued and it can't defend this turn in the event that my opponent would want to attack, which I don't think they would want to. And in this case, I am going to just attack with everything that I have. And so this is interesting interaction here because my opponent had a 1-5, I had a 4-3, so we weren't able to kill either of us, so we both stay, but then my opponent was able to save 4 damage from getting into face because of that. And we have lethal now, so we'll just go ahead and attack with everything, and we're going to get through this game nice and quickly. And we are going to keep going now. That was a really quick game, so I really have no problem just continuing on to the next one right here in this Gauntlet run. And then it'll be kind of a good exercise to see current prize. So currently we have a bronze chest, which really doesn't have that much in it, but that's fine. We're still trying to build our packs, or build our collection here. Now, last time we had a lot of mana or resources, or sigils, but this time I am going to want to redraw, because I feel like it's far too heavy of a hand, and I get basically the exact same cards back. I kind of want to play the 1-1. The issue is, though, of course, because the 1-1's not strong regardless. And so my opponent's played one of the double sigils. And then also used a card which draws another sigil. So that's one of the ways that some decks can stay resource rich, because they're always able to draw new sigils. When this attacks, if the top deck is a spell, draw it. Ooh, that's potentially scary. So this card actually has really good snowball potential, the Crown Watch Paladin. So it has 2 word texts, which is always good for 2 mana or 2 resources. We're going to go ahead and play our time sigil just because we don't have any right now. Now I have a bit of an issue here, is do I want to attack with the Crown Watch Paladin, potentially just have my opponent trade into it? But one of the word texts that we have here is the War Cry, and the War Cry mechanism, or mechanic, says that when this minion attacks, the top unit or weapon of your deck is +1/+1, so this can very easily snowball here. And now we're going to see if my opponent does want to trade, doesn't want that to go off any more than once, and so we just trade that in, which is fine. And interestingly enough, we drew another Crown Watch Paladin, which we are just going to go ahead and play. And so now it's become a 2-mana 3/3, as opposed to being a 2-mana or 2-resource 2/2. Which, as you can see, if I'm able to then attack again with this, each card progressively gets stronger and stronger. And I just have a feeling like my opponent, for whatever reason, I don't know what could potentially be in my opponent's hand, but it doesn't look like there's a lot of great things. Maybe this AI deck is playing a really heavy deck, but it's done 2 enemy units. Interesting. Kill a unit with 3 or less. Okay, so there's a lot of removal in my opponent's AI hand. And I will play the Initiate just because it's a 1-mana 2/2, or 1 power 2/2. I guess I should be trying to use the proper terminology here. The Feln Stranger. So Feln, there's a few. One of the things we also talked about earlier was the fact that there's different tribes that we can use, and I'm using a combination of Time and Justice, which is referred to as Combre, and my opponent's using the Primal and Shadow, which is referred to as Feln. And these are the in-game terminologies for these sorts of combinations of tribes or colors, of deck colors. So my opponent plays a card that has Flying and Aegis. No, we haven't really actually talked about this yet, but what this does, the Aegis, or Aegis, I don't know how people are going to pronounce it. I'll say Aegis, because I like to try and pronounce the E in the middle of words when I know you shouldn't. So what this does is it protects this minion from 1 direct spell or effect. So if I were to try and, let's say, use some sort of removal spell, I know that the fire decks, the red decks, have a 2-mana, 2-power, deal 3 damage. That would get absorbed by the Aegis, and this minion would stay alive, but it doesn't actually save the minion from physical damage. And that is lethal, and we'll just attack in. So the Aegis is actually a really good way to be protecting your stronger minions if you're able to buff one of your minions with an Aegis buff. it's able to then help keep it survive a little bit longer. And you know what, I think we're going to cut this video short here. We've shown a couple more of the new mechanics in Eternal and kind of drawn a couple more comparisons or contrasts with Hearthstone. Thanks for hanging out with me. If you want to see more, feel free to subscribe. I'm going to keep going with this Gauntlet run, probably go all the way to 7. I know the generally accepted strategy is to kind of cut short at 6, but I don't like that, especially on the first one. Let's get the best chest that we can, the most resources, and then I'll continue after this Gauntlet through a Forge run, and I will be hopping into Ranked and playing some at least suboptimal decks that I have, since I have a very small card collection right now. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you next time.